G'day everyone, Simon and Heath from You&Me, Personalised Property Services. Today we are joined by the amazing Robyn Lee from the award-winning property management team from Xceed. Robyn, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. Heath, we've got lots to talk about today.
We do.
We're going to look at the importance of having a property manager involved in the sale. We're going to look at the importance of having a buyer's agent in the sale. We want to have a look at some specific examples that you've had where I guess some of your Eastern State clients have chosen not to use a buyer's agent and what some of those pitfalls are. We're going to look at the vacancy rates in Perth right now. We're going to look at where we were 6 months ago and where you feel the property management market is going into the future. We're going to look at some of the checks that you do to ensure that you're getting the right tenant for the right property. And then lastly, just to ask you really, what are some of the good signs to look for in a good property management team? So lots to discuss. Over to you, Heath.
Lovely. Hi, Robyn. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm fantastic as always. Firstly, I just want to know, what is the importance of using a property manager when you're purchasing a property?
So I think having a property manager when purchasing a property is really important because the sales agent is working for the seller at the end of the day. They're not working for the buyer. So I think it's important to get an independent rental valuation on a property. Because the selling agent might tell you it's worth $50 more than it's actually worth, and that can mess with your yields. Second of all is the demographic in the area. So you want to know, whether it's a family area or, if it's more singles in the area as to what you're buying in a certain suburb. So getting that information, and also what maintenance is on the property. So does it have a pool? Does it have gardens? I'm not saying don't buy a property with a pool and gardens, but those things do come into it, and they are factors in maintenance going forward and owning an investment property.
Yeah, nice. And what about the importance of being able to use a buyer's agent as well? Where do you see that?
I think it's really important to have a buyer's agent. Buyer's agent is going to get information not just from the property manager, but also from, their own knowledge and selling agents as well. And I had buyers where, I get 2 or 3 phone calls a week from buyers over East, where, they're looking at purchasing a property and they're dealing with selling agents and they think it's their best mate and they're really not.
Because they're obviously there to look after the seller.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Which they're employed to do.
100%. And they end up paying too much for a property. So I find that a lot.
And have you got any specific details around that? Have you seen that lately?
Yes. So I had a buyer that called me and said, "Oh, what do you think of this suburb?" And I'm thinking, yeah, it's great. "Oh, well, I've missed out on 2 properties with this selling agent, but they're telling me that there's one off market. Can you go and view it for me? Because I'm thinking of paying X amount because I missed out on the last 2. And I told him, don't spend too much on the property because, it's only going to be $400 a week. He went and spent 60 grand more than he should have. And then all of a sudden wanted $470 a week for this property that was only worth $400. So yeah.
Wow. Yep. The old buyer's remorse, Simon.
Yeah.
We've seen it plenty of times. And,
especially in a market where people fear missing out, and especially in a market where you're trying to do it from over East. And we quite often see that when you try to save a penny, it costs you a fortune. So look, really good example. Vacancy rates, obviously Perth's at an all-time low. The demand's really strong. Can you sort of tell us about your current vacancy rates now, and I guess after that, where you see the property management sector in the next 6 months and immediate future?
Yeah, so we at Xceed, we're probably an all-time low. We haven't had this many rental properties as a low for a long time.
Yeah.
At the moment, we've got 12 properties with no application, and we have 5,000 properties across Perth.
So of 5,000, you've only got 12.
Yes.
That's
insane.
Yeah.
That's
without an application. So yeah, it's crazy at the moment. The demand is really high.
And where does your sort of vacancy rate sit in your office?
We're around about the 0.4 at the moment.
So you're below
under the Perth average,
and the Perth average is the lowest of any major capital city across Australia. So you're even doing better than what the average is here in Perth.
Yeah,
and that's a testament to your team. Well done.
And I guess when we talk real talk, it's how many applications. We can talk about rental vacancies, but for the buyers at home, it's all right. Well, I've got a property that I want to put with Xceed or any other, but Xceed in this case. How many applications are you generally getting? I know you spoke about a Wembley home or a Wembley Downs home.
It really depends on what the property is. We might get one application or we might get 50 applications, but that property in Wembley, it was a 3x1 apartment, and I put it on from $475 per week. Last year, I leased the similar property for $420 per week and thought, great, this is a great return. And I haven't even opened the home yet. Yesterday I checked 56 inquiries. I've got an application already at $500 a week.
Wow.
So it's like $100 more than the average in the complex.
That's amazing.
Absolute craziness. So,
yeah.
And you get a lot of applications, but how do you check them tenants? How do you know that they're a good tenant or a good fit for the buyers?
I think you have to look at a bunch of things. Like you can ask, do they pay their rent on time, or, are they keeping the property well? But you have to look at a lot of different factors. So, for example, yes, we'll look at addresses and make sure that their pay slips match the address that they've put down.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll check they're employed and check their personal references. But we might look at other things. For example, if the property's got a pool, have they looked after a pool before? Does the property have gardens? What are they like with looking after gardens? Are they going from a brand new home to an older home? Are they going to be a nightmare to deal with? You look at lots of different things and not just a case of, do they pay their rent on time? Do they keep the property okay?
Yeah. What about subletting and things like that? Like, sometimes there's some cheeky tenants that try to pull the wool over a property management team's eyes.
Yeah. So we actually look at social media as well. And there's been times where we've caught tenants out for having puppies that they shouldn't be having, or
you can't say no to puppies.
Subletting as well, where they say, we're looking for a property and we're looking for somebody to move in, so you already know they're going to be subletting.
And so be clear, like they're applying on a lease agreement, on a rental agreement for ABC Jones, but then you've caught them out on social media trying to add more people in there that they haven't put on the lease.
Exactly.
Which is illegal?
Yes.
Right.
Cool. Yeah, pretty thorough. And what would an owner look for in a good property management team? How do they find a good property management team?
I think the two things that a lot of investors look at is Google reviews and Rate My Agent reviews. That's probably the main factor to look at first. But also, if you're getting 2 or 3 rental appraisals, what value they're giving you. For example, if they're just saying, this is how much your property's worth and this is our fees, that's not a good property manager. Yeah. You need to be looking at a lot of different things. What clauses that you might put into the lease to protect them, what maintenance might be done on the property. Do they need a tax depreciation? Do they need a capital gains valuation? Do they need cleaners? Do they need this? So you need to really look at it from a whole point of view and not just, this is your property and this is our fees.
So the devil's in the detail.
Yes.
And it's really important. You mentioned one thing there, clauses. What do you mean by clauses in a rental agreement?
So, for example, you might have a self-cleaning oven. You can't use certain chemicals on that. You might have an induction cooktop. You can't use certain pots and pans on that. Okay. You might have wooden floor that, expands, and you can't have soaking hot, wet mops on there. Yep. You want to make sure that the tenant isn't using steam mops on there. So, pools, gardens, lots of different things that we'd look at.
So there you go. I didn't even know that. So I've just learned something as well.
Look, I love the detail. Look, your knowledge in that sphere is just amazing, and that's no coincidence that of 5,000 properties you've only got 12 without an application. Guys, there you have it. I hope that you found that as informative as we have. Thank you so much for coming in again, Robyn, and to all our loyal viewing base. Until next time, happy investing. See you later, guys.
See you guys.